What's up, guys? Today, I want to talk about a topic that has been kind of developing as a thing for a while now. And this all started, I saw this clip of Russ in an interview where he's talking about how he wouldn't be classified in the same category as Travis Scott or some of the other huge superstar rappers, but he is selling out arenas and he's performing at like the same size venues as these people, but people wouldn't necessarily classify him in that like superstar league of artists. And I think that is about to be essentially what the new landscape of music is. Like I said, I feel like this has kind of been developing for a while now. But if you look at it, like when you said Travis Scott, like that's right when like superstars kind of stopped happening, quote unquote. Obviously, you have an exception here and there, someone like a Playboy Cardi, but even he had to cancel a bunch of shows or even the tour. I can't remember what it was because he wasn't able to sell enough tickets. And Russ is over here, like he said. I mean, he's right when he says people would not put him in that category, and that's not to diss him at all. That's just unfortunately the reality. Maybe not even unfortunate, but I think that this is going to be the new quote unquote superstar, is just someone who has a hardcore fan base that is messing with them in their music and their style, and they tune in when they drop. And cultivating these diehard fans is the new move for artists to succeed. Let's be real. I mean, there's huge artists that, although they have a ton of monthly listeners or whatever it might be, and you like from the outside, it looks like they're a superstar. When it comes to actually selling their album or selling tickets, they have pretty weak numbers relatively to what you think that they would have. And I think that honestly, it's going to be better for artists to have fewer total fans if more of those fans are consistently listening. And I've seen some videos online talking about how Spotify like classifies these as like super listeners, like the people that are streaming your music constantly, like they're listening to your music a good bit, and they are not like they're probably in like the top 5 or 10% of the people listening to your music as far as how much they're listening to you specifically. And that is gonna be the new landscape of music, I feel. Even like someone like a Sabrina Carpenter isn't necessarily like that's supposed to be like the new pop star. And I mean, she has fans, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying she doesn't, but there just isn't nearly as much like total people listening to her music as you would say like a Britney Spears in the past. And that's just because the internet, obviously, you're able to kind of go into your own bubbles, for lack of a better word, but you consume the content you want, and anything outside of that doesn't really hit your feed, doesn't hit your algorithm. And this is apparent whenever you see like drama going on online with like a YouTuber, and they're like, oh my god, so and so just did this or had this happen, and it's a huge story, and you like, I've never heard of this person in my life. A good example for this for me was like the Try Guy. I'd never heard of the Try Guys in my life. I don't think I was like their target demographic, and had kind of missed like their initial like popularity rising. So it kind of made sense that I wasn't aware of them necessarily. But there's creators like this out there all the time. I feel like I see people talking about them, and they do have like millions of followers and subscribers. But not only have I never heard of them, but I just maybe don't even see the appeal either. And hey, that's the beauty of the internet, is something that, or someone that has mainstream appeal isn't necessarily what's going to dominate. People are going to gravitate towards what they want, and that's how you result in something like a Russ, where I mean, I really don't want to disrespect Russ here. He's a great musician. I enjoy his music. Maybe not his biggest fan, but I don't mind listening to Russ. And he is someone I feel like if you played him at like a party, if it wasn't like one of his hits from back in the day, like mid to late 2010s, people will be like, what the fuck are you playing right now? And I'm not to say that's good or bad, but that's just kind of the reality of it, is someone who, like, if you played a Russ song from the most current album, most people I feel like wouldn't know what you're playing. They might know it's Russ, but they wouldn't be familiar with his music. But clearly he's got his diehard fans that are going to come out and support him and consume his music when he does drop. And he's able to sell out still, like these huge venues that someone of his quote unquote pedigree. Let me just look this up off the fly while I'm here at his monthly listeners. This is not necessarily a good metric in which to measure someone's success, but it is a metric to use. And if I'm looking this up right now, 12.3 million monthly listeners. So a good amount of monthly listeners. But the difference between him and someone who has like 20 plus is that he has a bigger percentage of like hardcore fans of his. And like I said, I think this has to be the future just because given how split the internet is, it's going to be hard. Like I don't see anyone really, unless they have just such broad appeal, like almost like a Post Malone in a type of way, where like he makes all different kinds of music and has been successful in making all those different types. I feel like the odds of someone like that popping up are kind of low, and even if it does, everyone's attention is just so divided. I don't know if it would matter. I think everyone's kind of just off in their own little world doing their own thing. And I'm a big music fan. Obviously, I'm making this video about music, and so I enjoy checking out new projects, enjoy checking out new artists. If if it's something or someone I've never heard that I could like, I'm interested in checking it out. And most music fans just aren't like that, especially with the way that social media has songs and like. There's a reason why TikTok is such a big platform for musicians and why so many labels like want you like, are you making TikTok? And that's because there's a lot of people that they just kind of like, if it's an artist they like, they might check it out already. But beyond that, they're not really interested in listening to new things, especially when they have an algorithm that can deliver new songs to them. And these are usually the most bumping songs. And like, that's your standard listener. Nothing wrong with that. That's just the reality of the, landscape we're in for artists now. And I just think you're going to see a lot more artists starting to lean into that aspect where maybe they don't get the traditional industry support or this like the typical mainstream popularity that you kind of dream of. But I think it's just kind of more so because the odds of that happening in such a fractured landscape, like I've said, is just so low. But I mean, you can like, what do you want? Do you want to be famous or do you want to make a living making music? And I think that's kind of the question you have to ask as an artist. If if you want that mainstream appeal, you might have to compromise your art or your vision for what you want to make in order to appeal to all these different demographics. But if you're looking to just be a successful musician who's able to make a living off of that, prioritizing these super listeners that Spotify has dubbed it, and that's just like a decent verbiage to get across my point. Trying to get more of those is the move for you because these not only are they going to listen to your music more and more consistently, but like they might listen to the whole album where someone might only, a regular listener might only listen to a track or two from that entire project. And they're also going to do it more consistently. So they might listen to you multiple times a week, where someone else might only listen to you, once a month. And it's one or two songs that you have that are like bigger hits of yours. And so if you really, really want to like get successful to the point where you can sell out the venues you want to, prioritizing just making a hardcore fan base that rocks with you is honestly the only move. A great example of this is I'm a big Kid Cudi fan. And Kid Cudi's for sure like a huge act. Lots of people know him. He's got a good amount of hits. And so it's a little bit different, but I feel like I see a lot of, I don't even want to say necessarily negative, but people do not necessarily put Kid Cudi up there in those conversations either. If you look at his stats, like his monthly listeners, like I said, it's not the end all be all of metrics, but it is one that we have available. Then you can tell, okay, like he has a decent amount of fans. But let's be real, how many of those are just people bumping like Day and Night, Pursuit of Happiness, like some of his bigger hits? And now, he's been releasing music still. His most recent album, Free, just released, and I didn't really hear many people talking about it. Not to say that means it's bad or anything, but I think that he's just a representative now of that type of music culture where he's got his hardcore fans. Like I am one of his hardcore fans. So like when and obviously this is a little bit of a, weird situation, but like he's doing a special listening like event, or I don't think it's like a concert, but it's at a local venue here in Cleveland that isn't like Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, the big arena that someone of his size would probably typically go to perform at. He's going to a place called the Grog Shop, which is a much more intimate setting and much smaller, and that sold out literally within like 2 minutes. And like that just goes to show you like he has fans that rock with him, that rock with his style, his music, and that is enough. That's enough to keep him like doing what he wants to do, whether it be more albums and music, and, those are always appreciated, or even his forays into film or the animated movie that he made, which was originally a TV show. I'm not going to get into that, but I think that is what artists should be prioritizing now, are fans that are going to show up for you. So, I mean, people are always going to be chasing hits, and, especially if with your being an artist that focuses on your hardcore fan base, I feel like is sort of a shift. I feel like when most people dream of their dreams of being an artist that's big, they picture the typical standard like fame and recognition, like nationwide or even worldwide, that we've come to, expect from certain artists that are like a Travis Scott or somebody like that. But like I said, that's just not really going to be feasible for many people, just given the way the internet works now. But let me know what you guys think about this. If there are any artists that are like similar to Russ that you're like, oh yeah, no, like I for sure know what you're talking about. So and so does awesome, with the fans that like to listen to their music, but isn't necessarily looked at as like the big guy, like the giant act that draws in a ton of heads. But like when they do show up, they pack out the venue. Their fans show out. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks for listening. Have a good one. Bye.